Excel for Office 365 has a valuable new feature. It's an analytical tool, and it's called Ideas, a feature introduced in previous versions of Office 365 and originally called Insights. The feature was enhanced and renamed in late 2018 as Ideas, and it's located on the Home tab. Far right button. As we slide over the button, we see the description. It is a preview feature, meaning it will be upgraded at different times. Discover more about your data. Ideas looks for patterns in your data that it can use to create intelligent, personalized suggestions. For the most part, we're likely to see suggestions that are either charts or pivot charts. On this worksheet called Ideas in our Chapter 7 charting file, we've got data in columns A through G. This is transaction type data. It's about 900 rows. We can either highlight it all, but since it is surrounded by empty cells and worksheet boundaries, we can simply click within it. And then as we click the Ideas button, Excel will analyze all that contiguous data and give us some ideas. Get used to the idea that not all these are going to be perfect. In fact, the first one here doesn't look like it's going to be very useful at all. The next one certainly is, though. I know at a glance now, and I might not even necessarily want to pursue this any further, but I see clearly we've sold more televisions than clothes washers. If we want to keep this information more prominently, what do we see below? Insert. Now, often it will be a pivot chart, sometimes just a regular chart. Let's click this. We're about to see a new sheet. And there it is. And there's a pivot chart right there. You can move it around. Maybe you've never worked with them before, but here's a pivot chart. There's the summary data off to the left based on the information that we saw on the other sheet. It's a crowded screen for the moment. I'm going to close this dialog box here and then go back to the ideas sheet because there's some other choices out there to the right too. Notice the scroll bar. We can scroll down. The next one, I'm not so sure that I'd be interested in that. It says items and amount appear highly correlated. Okay, well, that's good. But if I want this, I can insert the chart as well. This is not a pivot chart, and get some visual analysis of the data. Farther down, we're noticing something else, maybe a bit unusual and something maybe we just want to observe and move on. For the salesperson, Bill Babowski, and the customer, Electro City, that's a minimum number of items sold for whatever reason. But what do we see below this? Show all 35 results. Click it, and we see some more choices. And the scroll bar becomes active on the right side. We can start to scroll down, see some other choices. For the customer Electro City, amount has outliers, some unusually high or unusually low numbers. It picks up on those too. And we see some other analysis below that as well too. One of these salespersons here has sold more televisions than anything else, which may or may not be unusual. But we're getting, pardon the pun perhaps, ideas about how we might analyze the data. And lots of choices here. One of these persons here has noticeably higher amounts based on working with one customer or another. And we see some other choices as well too. Now, closing the dialog box, I'm going to click into this middle set of data here. This is about 700 rows of data, HR type data. Again, I'm not sure what I might get out of this, but let's click that Ideas button again. And off to the right, we begin to see some other choices. Years by building probably wouldn't be very interesting. That job rating, not so much either. On this one, I'm not seeing much so far with the first 4 choices, but let's show all 37 results and head down that path too, eventually, of looking at some of these others, seeing which of these are going to work with our data or make sense to us. And undoubtedly, you'll be getting some ideas here. Now, you probably would have known if you know the data well, but maybe you didn't. Full-time accounts for the majority of compensation. That's probably true in many organizations, but not necessarily all. So we begin to see lots of different opportunities here. Outliers again, notice here. And there's other data on this worksheet. I'll click back within the worksheet, scroll to the right. A smaller amount of data. Let's just click in here. Click Ideas, the Ideas button on the Home tab. And we're about to see some more information out here. Insert chart, not a pivot chart. 2 examples here where we're seeing analysis of the data. So one by one, as you use this feature, I think you can begin to say it opens the door to some thoughts, some ideas about this information that I hadn't really thought about perhaps. Or maybe it just gives me the ability to quickly create a chart based on some new analysis that I hadn't thought about. So an ideal feature here called Ideas is found on the Home tab, far right button on the ribbon, a valuable addition to the analytical capability of Excel.